Hi, Wayne from Endless Autonomy. This episode is for people who have already picked out what style of bus that they want to buy, but they haven't yet made a selection and they haven't decided what means they're going to utilize to buy the bus: auctions, private sale, dealership. So if you were my best friend or my brother or my sister and you were wanting to buy a bus and you said, give me the bottom line of the best things that we should look for, the things that we should stay away from, what would that advice be? That's what's in this video. I put a ton of links below to great YouTube channels and websites that I used in my 1.5 years of doing research. And these are tools that help me pick out my bus. So final considerations in, the actual bus that you want to buy. There's drivetrain considerations and there's the structure of the bus itself. So with drivetrain, there's a couple engines that I would recommend. The first one is the Cummins 8.3 turbo diesel, and the other one is the International Navistar, the DT 466. They also have a DT 360, which is a little bit smaller, and then there's the larger version, which is also kind of rare, the DT 530. So what do those engines have in common? Two things. One is incredible reliability and quality. Both of those engines, the Cummins and the DT series, with good preventative maintenance, you'll get 300 to 500,000 miles between, before you need a major overhaul done. That's a lot of life. And a lot of the buses you pick up, like mine, had 167,000 miles on it, and it's a Cummins 8.3. So basically it's just broken in and it's got a lot of life left in it. So that's one factor. The other is the type of engine. It's a wet sleeve engine. So there's wet sleeve engines and parent sleeve engines. A wet sleeve engine, the pistons go up and down inside of a sleeve. So the sleeve is in the engine block. So when it's time to rebuild the engine, they remove the pistons and the sleeve that the pistons go up and down in. So if it's pitted or grooves are cut into it, they just replace the sleeve, replace the pistons, and they actually buy it in a kit, and the engine stays in the bus. That's the key thing here. The engine does not have to be taken out in most cases. With a parent sleeve bus, when it's time for an overhaul, in most cases they're removing the engine from the bus because the pistons go up and down in the engine block itself. There's no sleeve. So if it's pitted or grooved or damaged, it needs to have the engine block taken out and typically shipped to a machine shop where they have to put the engine on a lathe and bore out the engine. I guess they do it in a lathe. I mean, I'm not a mechanical person. So what I do know is that it's a lot more expensive to have those engines rebuilt because you got to take them out of the bus. So you want to have the engine stay in the bus. So stick with the DT series bus, 466, 530, or 360, or a Cummins 8.3. What about the other Cummins engines? The 5.9, the 6.7. They've got great reputations. They're very durable engines, but they are parent sleeves. So when they finally need a rebuild, in a lot of cases, they're still taking the engine out of the bus and sending it off to be bored out. The 8.3 does not have to have that done. They're a wet sleeve. So all the other ones are parent sleeve. What about other engines like Caterpillar? A lot of buses have a Caterpillar engine. And when you think of Caterpillar, you think of very rugged and durable. You think of heavy machinery. You think of heavy equipment, bulldozers, and tough and durable. And the engines are tough and durable. And like a Cummins and a DT series, they'll get 350 to 500,000 miles with good preventative maintenance. But they're parent sleeve engines. When you got to rebuild the engine, in most cases the engine's coming out of the bus. And I've heard cases where Caterpillar engines will cost more than the actual purchase price of the bus to have the engine rebuilt. So for me, when I was doing my shopping, what I would advise you if you're shopping for a bus, when I saw a Caterpillar, I didn't even look any further. I didn't want to see it. I moved on. I was looking for a Cummins 8.3 or a DT 466. That's the most common DT engine. And I really didn't want anything else. Transmission. Oh, one more thing. Mileage. So, that's another major thing. So, let's say you get a Caterpillar engine, but it only had 74,000 miles on it. I saw one of those recently. You're probably a pretty safe bet, because with good maintenance, that should still last 300,000 miles, and the bus might outlive you. I mean, in terms of, unless you're going to be driving it every day, you're probably not going to put that many miles on it. So, low mileage buses, yeah, you might consider a parent sleeve engine. But mid-range, to high mileage, if the bus has 200,000 miles on it, you may need an overhaul in 100,000 miles. And do you want to take the engine out? So anyhow, I made my point there. Moving on to the transmission. Most of the buses built after 2000 have automatic transmissions, and most of those are Allison transmissions. The older buses, the late 90s and the early 2000s, had the 545 transmission, Allison, and those are not direct drive. So even at highway speeds in the highest gear, the power is being transmitted to the rear wheels through a torque converter. So it's not direct drive. So what that means is at faster speeds, and those, by the way, those transmissions were really designed for low speed stop and go, like a school bus, picking kids up, stopping, not really being on the open highway. So, so at the higher highway speeds, those transmissions are going to get hotter, and they're going to use more fuel because they're not direct drive. You're losing some power through the torque converter. So the next step up from the AT545 is the MT643 transmission. And that transmission is a direct drive. So in the highest gear, it'll be direct drive. So not only is it going to run cooler at highway speeds, when you're going down a hill, you'll be using the actual engine to help slow you down. With the AT545, when you're going down a hill, you really can't use the engine to slow you because the torque converter is spinning. So as you go down the mountainside, you're going to pick up speed faster and faster. And what I would advise is don't let the bus go fast, and don't let the brakes overheat, because that's the only way you're going to stop, unless you hit something that you don't want to hit. So with the MT643, you can, take your foot off the accelerator pedal, and the engine speed will slow you down. And what I've got, I have an MD 3060 transmission. So all of the Allison 3000 series transmissions, they are direct drive in 5th or 6th gear, and they're all designed with 6 speeds. But most of the buses don't have 6 gears available to them because they're programmed only for 5, including my bus. So the school district that had my bus, which was Prescott, Arizona, they only have 5 gears. So I'm going to have to take my transmission control module, the TCM, out and have it shipped off to a service that will program in 6th gear. So with my bus right now, it'll top out at 72 miles an hour, which it does that effortlessly, goes up hills, 70 miles an hour, doesn't even strain. But I'm also at 2150 RPM. And if I get 6th gear available to me, I'll probably drop down to about 1950 RPM. So I'll get better mileage and better fuel economy, and it'll be cheaper in the long run. And my engine should last a little bit longer because it's not working quite as hard. So my advice would be stick with an Allison. The older manual transmissions definitely are much more durable. The 3060 and the 3000 series are electronic, and so they not quite as rugged as the manual transmission, but again, they're good and they've got a great reputation. So we're done talking about the drivetrain, the engine and the transmission, the structure, the structural integrity of the bus. All I can say is do not buy a bus with rust on it. So for me, that really meant completely avoiding the rust belt states. Any state that has snow where they use road salt I was not even going to look at a bus from there, because more than likely there's going to be rust, maybe a little, maybe a lot. And if I can find the video, there's a couple of videos floating around out there of schoolies who bought a bus from a Rust Belt state, really didn't, pay a lot of attention to the underside of the bus. One girl in particular did a beautiful job with her build, spent a ton of money and time on this beautiful build, only to find out that her bus was so badly rusted that the mechanics told her that one big pothole, the entire bus will collapse on itself. And they recommended that she not even drive the bus. It's not safe. Do you want that? No. So my best advice is stay with buses that come from southern states. Like I live in Florida, so buses that come from a district in Florida. We don't get snow down here. We don't use road salt, so it's a good bet. The Southwest, Arizona, and even the southern, like, Texas and a lot of the southern states don't get much snow, so probably a good bet. California, don't get a lot of snow in California. And believe it or not, the states of Washington and Oregon. I was looking at buses that were being sold by a dealership in Washington, and right away I was about ready to just log off of the website, but the guy talking on, advertising the bus said, "Oh, by the way, we don't have rusty buses." And I'm thinking, well, really? You got a lot of snow up there. Then he proceeds to say that most of our municipalities in the state of Washington do not use road salt. They use sand, and as a result, our buses are pristine. And sure enough, they showed the undercarriage of all the buses that they were advertising, and they were very clean, no rust. So consider states that don't use road salt. But any of the Rust Belt states, the Northeast, the Midwest, for me, I'm not even going to go there. So I'm going to go with a Cummins 8.3 engine. I'm going to go with a DT 466 or 530 or 360 engine, an Allison transmission, MT 643 or higher, and I'm buying a bus that came from a southern state, a southwestern state, or Washington or Oregon, and I'm looking at the undercarriage. So that's drivetrain and structure. The final issue here is the method that you use to buy your bus. There's auctions, there's private sales, and there's dealerships. Those are the three main vehicles for purchasing your bus. We'll start with the least expensive option, auctions. There's a lot of them, and I'm putting links here below to a lot of the auctions that I was looking at. And so with the auctions, they do sell buses from all over the country, so you want to make sure that when you're reading about a particular bus that it did not come from a Rust Belt state, and they'll typically tell you what make and model engine is in it and transmission. That's very helpful. So now the next thing is they'll typically tell you that the bus runs. It was driven here, or it had to be towed here. I'm sorry. Information that the bus runs, to me, that's not good enough. It was driven to the auction. Am I going to buy it and drive it 5 miles down the road and it stopped working? It needs a new transmission or a new engine. That is the risk that you take when you buy from an auction. Now, if the auction's near you and you can go look at the bus yourself, a lot of them will let you start the motor and look under the bus and check it out, but they really won't let you drive it. That's not what they're all about. All these buses are sitting on their lot. They're going to be auctioned off on a certain date, and that's all there is to it. They're not going to let you drive it. So if you don't live near the bus, or if you do live near it and you're not good with looking at mechanical things, take a mechanic with you, a friend, or even buy the services of a mechanic. Or if the bus is on the other side of the country where you can't get to it, I highly recommend that you use a mechanic service. And there are quite a few app-based mechanic services. I used one recently to work on my pickup truck. They came to my driveway. They did a great job. They have national reputations to uphold, and they rely heavily on things like Google ratings. So I picked an app-based mechanic service that had a high Google rating, and they did a great job. On the downside, they're a little more expensive. But hey, if they're going to look at a bus that's at an auction on the other side of the country that you can't get to, and they charge you a couple $100, that's money well spent. That's if you're going to put money on an auction, I want to pay whatever I have to pay to have a mechanic at least give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Obviously, thumbs down, I'm not going to put money on it. So what's the deal? At the end of the day, the auction for me was not good. Even, I spend $3,000 to $5,000, and a lot of schoolies out there, if you look at their YouTube videos, they bought from an auction and they got lucky. They got a great bus, and a lot of that is luck, and that's a good thing. Let's say you get a bus from an auction and it's $3,000 or $5,000, so you still got a real good price on it, much better than a private sale or a dealer. And oh my God, you got to rebuild the engine, and you spend several thousand on that. You still may come out ahead in the end. So, while you buy that bus at a dealer for $12,000 or $14,000 or $19,000, so you're still coming out ahead, buying it at an auction and doing a lot of work on the engine or the transmission. Do you want to be surprised and then have to stop your build to ship your bus off, find a mechanic or a transmission shop, and have that work done? So for me, I didn't want to risk my money. I don't really gamble with anything. So not only my money, but my time. I wanted to buy the bus and know that the bus that I was getting was rock solid. So auctions for me were not an option. The next is private sales. I looked at quite a few. There's Craigslist for local buses. And if you don't live in a rusty area where they use road salt, hey, check out Craigslist. And you'll find people selling their bus. Another great resource is SKOOLIELiving.com. So there's multiple links that I'll show below for SKOOLIELiving.com. It's a great website made by a guy by the name of Chris and Sarah, his significant other, and they put a great website together. Chris wrote a book, the 78-point DIY inspection manual, which I bought the paper version and the e-version, and I read cover to cover. Got a lot of great information. Also on his website, it details all the engines, and there's a spreadsheet that I downloaded that shows you parent sleeve versus wet sleeve, and there's different categories for a green category green, a great engine, a yellow engine, like let's say a Caterpillar that needs to be rebuilt at a machine shop, and category red, that you will want to avoid for all kinds of reliability reasons. So great website. So go to SKOOLIELiving.com, and they have the SKOOLIE Living classifieds. And you can buy a bus, or you can look at buses from there, being sold all across the country. And so the deal with a private sale is, to me, the big thing is I want to find out, why is the person selling the bus? And there's two main reasons that I think people sell a bus. One is, for whatever reason, they decide the SKOOLIE thing is not for them. Maybe they got in over their heads with time and or money, or they just lost interest. And I got a great bus, but I really don't want to do I want to get my money back and do something else. So, okay, that's a good reason to get rid of your bus. But the other reason is not a good reason. They bought the bus, and as they're driving it around and they're working on it, they're hearing a funny noise, or the transmission is slipping, or they've discovered some things that aren't so good that are about possibly ready to fail, and they might not disclose it to you. And then if you do buy the bus from them, and then the engine goes bad, or the transmission, and something is bad, you call them and they'll say, well, I'm so sorry, I wasn't aware of that. So, and not everybody's dishonest, but you don't know the people, so you really don't know what you're getting. Again, unless you take a mechanic along. So a better chances of getting a more reliable bus for private sale versus an auction. But again, for me, what I found, I didn't find anything that I really liked. So finally, there's the dealer. And well, when I say a dealer, if you're thinking of like a used car dealer, not a lot of trust with most dealers, okay? But there are some dealers that have a great reputation nationally. They have great Google reviews, but most importantly, they have great reviews, and one is going to come to mind. I'm going to say it right now. AAA Bus in Phoenix, Arizona. I kept watching videos by other schoolies talking about the bus they bought at AAA, and they all have many things in common. They recommend the buses highly. They will go back there for all of their SKOOLIE needs. They will go back there to have their bus serviced. And they also showed videos of Tony, the owner, showing you things to look for in a bus. And I put links below. Chris with Chris Travels has a video where Tony is showing you how to use a wrench and how to crack each of the injectors, and you can hear the sound that the injector's making, and he tells you what to listen for. So much expertise being shared willingly. But the biggest thing for me is that AAA Bus is also a full service shop. They rebuild engines, they take them apart down to the nuts and bolts and pistons and drive camshafts and whatnot, and they rebuild them. And if they need to be machined, they take care of that. And they also rebuild transmissions. So when they get buses in, unlike most dealers who just really sell the bus, even locally here, there's a great dealer, but they don't do a lot of work. They just resell the bus. And AAA, they go over the bus mechanically, and if they find anything wrong with it, whether it's the air brakes or the transmission, they fix it before they sell it. So after watching lots of videos from other SKOOLIEs singing the praises of AAA Bus, I called them because I didn't see anything on their website. I was wanting, a full underbelly storage. I was wanting, the Cummins 8.3 or the DT 466 engine, the Allison 3000 series transmission. So I called their phone number. A guy by the name of Joe answered. He's the office manager and, runs everything out there for Tony, the owner. And, Joe goes, well, what do you want? And I said, I want a flat nose, either a Bluebird All-American or an International. I want it to be 40 foot long. I want it to have full underbelly storage, and none of your buses on your website right now have that. And I want a Cummins 8.3 turbo diesel or a DT 466 engine. And I want an Allison 3000 series transmission. And he goes, kind of jokingly, I couldn't tell if he was being sarcastic or joking, you sound like a SKOOLIE wannabe who's watched a lot of videos. And I said, yeah, you're right. I watched your videos. Tony, your owner, watched his videos. That's who educated me. You did. And so, I'm a YouTube wonder, okay? But I'm using this knowledge to pick my bus. And so he goes, well, we don't have any buses right now for sale, but you're in luck. We just got one in with full underbelly storage, but it's not on the website yet because it's got a bad transmission and we're replacing it. Once we replace the transmission, it will be available for sale. And I'll send you some pictures. So I said, okay, please do. So he sent me some pictures in an unpublished video. And I saw that and I called him right back. And I said, I'm sitting here drooling. I want that bus. And he goes, well, it's not for sale yet. I said, okay, I'll send you a deposit. I want that bus. I will buy that bus. I'm paying cash. I want that bus. And he goes, okay, we'll take your name. And when it becomes available, we'll call you. And about a week later, they did. And I immediately sent the money. So, anyone who knows me saying, Wayne, you sent $1,000 on a down payment on a bus to a dealership that you've not even looked at the bus sight unseen. I'm like, yeah, these people got a national reputation. And I've got this confidence factor that Tony and his staff at AAA, they're not going to risk their national reputation that they've worked incredibly hard to earn it. They're not going to try to screw me over for a few $100s, to save a few $100s and destroy something golden, that national reputation. On a very, very highly calculated risk, I sent my money and I bought my bus. So long story short, after I put the money on the bus, I took a week off from my job, flew out to Phoenix, and I spent about a day. They will spend a full day with you, educating you in everything that you need to know about taking care of your bus, maintaining your bus, checking your bus, driving your bus. we spent about an hour on the road, Tony and I recorded a lot of video, which I'm putting on my YouTube channel. Tony educating me and everybody who watches the video about things specific to buying buses. An absolutely amazing person and an amazing dealership. I highly recommend AAA Bus. Really, to anybody, my best friends, my family, and myself. I need a bus again, I'm going to AAA. If I need work done on this bus and I can drive it out there, I'm going to AAA. While I was there at AAA on that day, several of the people whose videos that I watched for the last year and a half, Chris from Chris Travels, and Jim and Debbie from Life is a Joy, they were there with their buses having work done. So I met them, I hung out with them, I told each of them, you're the reason I'm here, you're the reason I'm becoming a schoolie. And I almost wanted their autograph, but not quite that corny, so I didn't ask for it. But I did ask to videotape both of them, and they both graciously let me have a tour of their bus. They let me videotape it with the knowledge that I was going to start up my own YouTube channel, and they were cool with that. Chris, if you're watching this, the video that I shot of your incredible tour of your bus and meeting your dog, I'm not able to put it on my website because I hit the wrong button. I wasn't even recording video. So, you know, if you had any hesitation about me stealing all your subscribers, you're totally safe. If I can't even make a video, I think you got nothing to worry about. So anyhow, that being said, I spent enough of your time. I hope this was helpful to you. Definitely look at the links below. Any questions or comments, I will review and get back as I can. Thank you very much and have a good day.